Hello, Marvelites! You are watching Marvel's The Pull List, and I'm Ryan, aka Agent M.
And I'm Tucker Marcus.
And every week we read every single Marvel comic that comes out. We pick a couple of them, we pick a topic to tell you why we're so hyped. Tucker, what are we talking about this week?
This week, time runs out. We're kind of going through some threshold moments in a bunch of issues this week, and we've selected four for a few different reasons. We'll dive into it right now with Fantastic Four number 12. This one, we are literally up against the clock. We are following Mr. Benjamin J. Grimm on his honeymoon. Oh, that's fun. He's out there with Alicia, and that just so happens to line up with the one day a year where he morphs from the Thing back into Ben Grimm with no powers. He's just a normal dude. And right when that happens, guess who shows up? The Immortal Hulk. It's Thing versus Hulk. That's a classic Marvel goodness right there. Ryan, you were saying that Dan Slott has been talking about this issue for years, and rightfully so. It does not disappoint. Great stuff all around. Then we also have a backup story by Jeremy Whitley and Will Robson, where we get to know the Future Foundation a little bit better ahead of their ongoing series. Julie Powers shows up, which is really exciting. So much to love in the FF universe. Just great stuff.
Heck yeah. What's also great? Death's Head number 1. Boy, oh boy, I've been super ready for this series to come out. I'm a huge Death's Head fan, as much as one can be for such a relatively obscure character, at least for Marvel Comics readers in the US. But Death's Head is such a fascinating character, transversing realities, one of the greatest designs, I think, in Marvel Comics. He's like a robot bounty hunter, and so now he's got his own series. But if you don't know who Death's Head is and you're still like on the fence after I told you all this cool stuff about him, how about if I tell you Wiccan and Hulkling are in this book? Teenie Howard coming in, it's so funny. Her dialogue is always great. The scenarios, big action, all that stuff. Kai Sama coming in, doing a kind of manga meets cyberpunk meets superheroes vibe to the art. I absolutely loved it. There's a big mystery right at the end of the book. I can't wait for more. I love Death's Head, so this is perfect.
Moving on to Conan the Barbarian number 8. This is a wild one because we have Conan. He's got all the best intentions. He's heading home, back to hometown, to see his grandma and a bunch of people he grew up with, people that he loves, just to kind of talk about his travels and things like that. But things don't work out that way because what he comes across are like a bunch of occultish, undead, scary, mystical versions of everything he thought he once knew, and he has to go up against it all. Great stuff, as always, in Conan, led by Mr. Gerardo Zaffino on art, and it is gorgeous.
Yeah. All right, so you're like, okay, Mr. Mustache, you're wearing an X-Men t-shirt. Powers of 10 came out this week. Where's my X-Men? Powers of 10. We're going to talk about it. Of course we're going to talk about it. Now, if you read House of X number 1 last week, you're like, wow, this is incredible. What's next? Powers of 10 is next. The fun thing is, each week you'll get a new issue of House of X, and then the next week, a new issue of Powers of 10. Back and forth as they go through all 6 issues of each series. And there's parts of House of X that dive right into Powers of 10 number 1. You can read them separately. I would say give us all your money, read both books, and enjoy the great storytelling that Jonathan Hickman, R.B. Silva, Marta Grassi, and the team are doing on Powers of 10. I will say that, we've seen some characters with really cool designs. There's a guy who's red, looks kind of like Nightcrawler. There's a woman who has a big sword that looks like Magic's, and she has metal that looks like Colossus's steel. You'll find out a lot about them in this issue and see what they're all about, and plenty more. You're gonna wanna read this and keep going. Make sure you check these out. They're so good. We're gonna tell you so much more about all the Marvel comics out this week. I will still tell you nothing about Powers of 10 when you listen to the podcast version of Marvel's The Pull List. Get it wherever you get your audio, and we'll be back with another episode of this video show and the audio show next week. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Tucker.
And this is Marvel,
your universe.